The power of nature takes the stage. Storm alerts across the eastern and southeastern U.S. This morning, the eastern and southeastern United States woke up to the roar of powerful storms and fierce winds. Dark clouds blanketed the sky, accompanied by intermittent downpours that transformed the region into a scene of chaos. Intense winds toppled trees in some areas and caused widespread power outages. For those who felt the force of nature firsthand, it served as a stark reminder. Nature remains an uncontrollable force to be reckoned with. Los Angeles battling the flames. On the West Coast, the situation is different but no less dramatic. Los Angeles is grappling with intense wildfires that are spreading rapidly, threatening both wildlife and residential areas. Hot and dry conditions have made controlling the fires even more challenging. While firefighters are working tirelessly, shifting and intensifying winds are complicating their efforts. Residents in the region face evacuation orders as thick plumes of smoke rise into the sky, making it difficult to breathe in the city. In today's video, we're diving into the upcoming weather pattern and examining what I believe will be the main theme, the deepening of cold air. I strongly suspect we are in for some brutal cold conditions, and the Climate Prediction Center agrees. Currently, we're looking at the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook, which shows very cold conditions. We'll also examine snowfall chances. One system appears to primarily target the southeast and mid-Atlantic regions, while a couple of additional threats could impact the broader mid-Atlantic and extend into the northeast. Models have been hinting at more than one storm for the southeast mid-Atlantic corridor. However, in today's video, we'll likely focus on just one or perhaps two. Overall, snowstorms seem like a strong possibility within this very cold pattern. Yesterday, I discussed how the eastward movement of cold air could shift the storm track further east. The deeper and more eastward the cold air moves, the more likely storm threats will be concentrated along coastal areas. If the cold air were centered further inland, we might see storms impacting more interior regions. However, because the cold has been deeper and shifted east this year, coastal threats have become more prevalent. For the period of January 19th to 23rd, the precipitation outlook reflects this pattern. We see above average precipitation concentrated along the Gulf and East Coasts, with a drier pocket over the heart of the coldest areas. Additionally, we anticipate above average activity near the Great Lakes, likely due to lake effect snowfall and clipper systems. There's also an above average precipitation pocket near the Rockies and Plains, while the West remains very dry during this time frame. Moving to the 8 to 14 day outlook, January 21st to 27th, the cold air shifts even further eastward. This results in very cold conditions for immediate East Coast areas. The only warm region appears to be along the West Coast, which aligns with patterns we've observed throughout this winter. Precipitation during this period is even more suppressed, with dry air extending into the Mid-Atlantic, Northeast, Midwest, and Ohio Valley. Most precipitation is confined to the Southeast and Gulf states, with a continued above average pocket in the Rockies and Plains. Dry conditions persist over the West. Over the past few weeks, the 3 to 4 week outlook and the monthly outlook have consistently shown cold conditions in the East and warm conditions in the West. This trend hasn't changed much. Looking back at the past 10 days, the cold has been centered mainly from the plains eastward, particularly in the Southeast and Mid-Atlantic. However, the Great Lakes and Northeast have also experienced significant cold. The West has been warmer overall, though a cooling trend has emerged, reducing the intensity of the warmth. Interestingly, we've seen several days of widespread cold that extend across the west, central, and eastern regions, a rare occurrence. Typically, we observe either warm west and cold east or the reverse, but coast-to-coast cold hasn't been common in recent years. Now let's take a look at the models. Today's model is less eventful than yesterday's, which featured a significant blizzard. I mentioned it would be a roller coaster, as medium to long range forecasting often is. we'll continue tracking these storm threats. One area we've been monitoring for fun is a region where a system had potential to trend northward, as they often do. Although the system didn't fully materialize, it came closer than initially expected, with precipitation reaching parts of the deep south. The cold air needed for snow remained just 100 to 200 miles too far north for snowfall in these regions. As we move forward, cold air continues to dominate, with some snow squalls expected in certain areas. Snow showers will be present throughout much of the Ohio Valley and into the Great Lakes, with some lake effect snow also occurring. Other than that, there isn't much significant weather to discuss through Wednesday. The main development to note is a system forming in the western Gulf of Mexico. This region has been the origin point for many recent storms and is likely where most upcoming storms will originate as well. For this system to become a snow threat, it would need to latch onto the jet stream, which currently extends across parts of the deep south. If the system connects with the jet stream, snowfall could become a possibility. However, as we move into Thursday, this system appears to fizzle out to the south, failing to gain strength. While not every storm pans out, the storm track in this area remains active, so more opportunities for development are expected. On Thursday, January 16th, cold conditions continue, although warmth begins to push in from the west. As noted in previous videos, this time frame from January 16th to 18th marks the start of a brief period of warmer conditions moving into the east. By Friday, much milder weather spreads across the Midwest, Ohio Valley, and Southeast. This warmth is a stark contrast to the colder conditions expected to dominate the region after this time frame. While there's not much in the way of significant storms, snowfall will likely occur in the Rocky Mountains. A low pressure system between the Great Lakes and Hudson Bay, which has been responsible for ushering in cold air, could foreshadow more cold air arriving later. Spoiler alert, it's coming. On Saturday, January 18, things get more interesting. Thunderstorms could develop across the southeast and Gulf states, with potential for severe weather in some areas. This period of warmth and humidity will be one of the few mild stretches during this model run, which extends close to the beginning of February. If you experience a dry, warm day without rain, enjoy it. It will be rare in this pattern. Snowfall will dominate much of the Great Plains and Rockies, while the Northeast sees some mountain snow during this time frame. By Sunday, January 19th, we may see the ingredients for a significant system to develop along the jet stream, which is currently moving through the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast. The model shows two distinct pieces of energy, one over the plains and Midwest and another over the Gulf. For a major storm to develop, these pieces would need to merge. Currently, the model shows them remaining far apart, which limits the storm's potential. However, this is still 5 to 6 days out, leaving time for changes. Even without full phasing, the model shows a weak low-pressure system forming off the Mid-Atlantic coast, producing plowable snowfall for parts of the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast. If the pieces of energy were to come together, this storm could become much more impactful. Monday, January 20th, is another critical date. Deep diving Arctic air is expected to spread from the Midwest and Great Lakes into the deep south and rapidly move eastward. A storm developing along the jet stream could strengthen off New England, bringing plowable snowfall to the region. By Tuesday, January 21st, the cold air will dominate the east, and a clipper system may develop over the northern plains. These storms are unique in that they often move directly through cold air, bypassing the jet stream. As a result, they are typically all snow events with no warm side, though they rarely produce large snowfall totals. As we move into Wednesday, cold conditions persist and will continue to track developments. A quick-moving clipper system will track through the Great Lakes into the Northeast, bringing some light snow as we move toward Thursday, January 23rd. The cold in the east remains intense, with the core of the Arctic air mass centered between the Hudson Bay and Great Lakes. Meanwhile, a robust area of warmth builds in the west due to a positive Pacific North American PNA pattern. This setup drives Arctic air deep into the east. On January 23rd, another potential system begins developing in the western Gulf of Mexico. This one has a better chance of latching onto the jet stream compared to previous systems, raising the possibility of more significant impacts. By Friday, however, the storm appears suppressed to the southeast, failing to bring snowfall to the coast. The jet stream remains too far offshore due to the cold air dominating the east. This trend continues with a milder push developing in the east by January 25th to 27th. As we approach the end of the month, the question remains whether this signals the start of a warmer pattern or if it's simply a misstep in the extended forecast. This potential pattern shift could lead to severe weather setups across the Deep South, stretching into the Appalachian region, and may also bring ice storms to areas like Arkansas, northern Mississippi, western Tennessee, and western Kentucky. The Southern Rockies could also see renewed snowfall activity. The GFS model differs slightly, showing a system developing over Illinois during this milder period on Saturday, January 18th. This storm brings the possibility of severe weather and thunderstorms along the mid-Atlantic coast and southeast, with wintertime thunderstorms even reaching the northern mid-Atlantic. By Sunday, January 19th, a low-pressure system begins to form along a cold front, producing snowfall across the southern Appalachians and spreading into Virginia, Maryland, and the mid-Atlantic. The GFS model shows this storm intensifying further, bringing plowable snow to eastern Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New England, and the Delmarva Peninsula. The heart of the Arctic air arrives on January 20th to 21st, coinciding with renewed activity in the western Gulf of Mexico. The GFS model hints at a suppressed southeast snowstorm on January 22nd, bringing snow to parts of South Carolina, North Carolina, and southeast Virginia before moving offshore. However, both the GFS and European models share a southeast bias, which could lead to northwestward shifts in later runs. A potential southern nor'easter or slider type storm could develop, affecting the mid-Atlantic and northern southeast if conditions align. However, another system forming around January 24th appears weaker and fails to organize along the jet stream, resulting in only light snowfall in some areas. By January 27th to 28th, another system emerges, with the GFS suggesting a significant Ohio Valley and Northeast snowstorm. This system recycles energy from the Gulf, with cold air from the west fueling potential interior snowfall events for the eastern states. This setup demands close monitoring for any major impacts. Looking at total precipitation on the European model, most of the nation will experience below average precipitation for the period. The exceptions are the northern Rockies, northern plains, and isolated areas in the southeast. Snowfall also appears limited along the coast as offshore storm tracks prevent substantial accumulations. Snowfall trends and interior focus. Snowfall across the Ohio Valley, Great Lakes, and Northeast looks on track to meet or slightly exceed seasonal averages. While these regions maintain active patterns, coastal and southeast areas largely miss out as storms remain far offshore due to an overwhelming Arctic influence. The Rockies and Cascades stand out with significant snowfall, breaking from recent quiet conditions. Notably, the suppressed coastal system over the Carolinas hints at the potential for rare snow events. Historical parallels, such as the substantial snowfall event in 1980, highlight the possibility, though these setups remain uncommon. GFS model highlights. The GFS depicts a slightly more coastal storm track compared to the European model, impacting southern New England, eastern Pennsylvania, northern New Jersey, New York City, and parts of northern Virginia and DC. This corridor could see plowable snowfall, even though coastal storms remain far from typical this season. The southeast retains cold enough conditions to produce snow, but with limited moisture, keeping the impact low. Nonetheless, the Rockies see notable improvement in snowfall coverage compared to earlier in the season. Temperature trends, roller coaster dynamics, initial cold blast. Through January 16th, Arctic air grips the east. Brief. Warm up, temperatures near normal or slightly above by January 17th to 19th, with the upper Midwest experiencing far above normal warmth. Severe Arctic intrusion beginning. January 20th, a full polar vortex event introduces extreme cold. January 21st, cold intensifies over the Ohio Valley, mid-Atlantic and southeast, with anomalies of 25 to 35 degrees Fahrenheit below normal. January 22nd to 26, a secondary wave of Arctic air extends the frigid conditions, though slightly less severe than the initial blast. The European model suggests a warm-up for the eastern U.S. after January 26th to 27th, but the GFS maintains the cold pattern into February with only brief moderations. Implications for February: the divergence between the models raises questions about the duration of the severe cold. If the European model's forecast holds, a transition to milder conditions could occur by the end of January. However, the GFS suggests a prolonged cold spell, possibly extending into February. And guys, if you enjoyed this one, don't forget to like and leave a comment below. I'll see you all in the next video.